Okay, at this point I have cleaned up all the welds here, and as mentioned before, I have this fitted so the fish mouth of the hardtail frame is butted right up against the hardtail frame. I've got these cut about 3/16 of an inch short, so there's a little bit of a gap, so I can show you guys how to use the slugs if that's how you want to do it. Again, that is not necessary if you want to fit them so they're nice and tight or whatever you're comfortable welding. The strength of this is really going to be when you weld it across there. The slugs are not necessary, but for the sake of the video, I'm showing you how to do it. Alright, now we're going to show you how to get it lined up in the rear. This frame fits over 20 years of Harley Sportster frames. So over those 20 years, there is some variances. Not everything's exactly the same. We run into the hardtails might be 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch off left and right on the axle plates by the time you get it all bolted to the frame, and that is just variances in Harley frames over the years. That's just kind of the way it is, and you got to work around it. If you've got one of our narrow frames for our 150 to 150 tire, come up with a really slick trick for getting these axle plates aligned left and right. That way you know your bike will track nice and straight and your chain or belt won't try to derail. It's pretty critical that you do this step and get that on there straight. If you just bolt them on at the bottom, you might get lucky, but chances are you might have to shim it just a little bit. It never takes very much, but it's good to just do it and make sure it's right. So what I've done here is I've taken the stock swing arm. This is the stock swing arm that was on the bike, and I've cut it off enough that it actually fits with the hardtail installed on the bike. That way you can use it as a guide or a measuring tool, if you will, for getting your hardtail centered left and right. When this pivot pin is bolted down nice and tight, the swing arm is exactly where it was from the factory, which gives you a perfect indication of where you want your hardtail axle plates. Try to get the angle here so you can see it. Our hardtails are actually almost exactly the same width from the outside of the axle plate to the outside of the axle plate is the factory swing arm. As you can see, right now I'm about 3/16 of an inch offset to the right. And over on the other side, still about 3/16 of an inch offset to the right. So that's saying the hardtail frame needs to come to the left a little bit for perfect alignment. Very simple to do. The two transmission bolts underneath here is what's kind of determining where your axle plates are setting. What we find on these factory Harley frames is this little tube right here is not always exactly the same length, or it might stick back just a little bit further there, and that's what's throwing the axle plates left and right. About half of them fit perfect. We don't have to do any shimming. This particular frame, we do. So I'm going to hand the camera over to my right hand, Katie the Chopper Freak, and she is going to hold the camera for me while I show you how to shim this stuff. Basically, for a shim, I just use a regular washer here. This frame needs to go to the left, so I need to put it between the hardtail and the factory frame to shift the hardtail to the left a little bit. If a factory washer is too much, which we're going to show you that here, you wouldn't think that would make a lot of difference on that axle plate, but it really does. A lot of times I use just a banjo washer for a brake because it's about half as thick as a standard washer. So Katie's going to hold the camera for us here, and we're going to show you how much difference one washer makes on your axle plate placement. Just hold that right there for me. Yep. Try to hold it nice and still. We're going to start out by just putting the thick washer in on this side. That way you can see how much difference it makes just from one thick washer, it'll probably end up being too much. This washer is less than 1/16 of an inch thick, so I don't tighten them up with the impact wrench. So as you can see, we added the standard machine washer right between there. There it is. Sandwiched between the hardtail frame and the factory frame. Before, my frame was too far to the right by 3/16 of an inch. Now, with the thickness of that one washer, try to get the angle here so you can see it, we are actually too far to the left. So that one washer makes it too much. I just wanted to do that to show you guys how much difference one washer makes. We almost moved that thing to the left by 1/2 of an inch just by using that one little washer. So now we're going to take it back out and put the little thinner banjo washer in there, and we should be right pretty much really close. Much thinner washer. Okay, that washer being about 1/2 as thick actually pretty much got us right on where we want to be. As you can see now, the outside of this factory swing arm is really nice and straight with the outside of the axle plate on the hardtail. Come around to the other side, same thing. Nice and flat across there. That's exactly what you want. Now you know that your frame is dialed in perfect. Nice and square and centered. Your bike's going to track perfect. Everything's going to work out really good right there. Up at the top, we're still butted up nice and tight. So at this point, other than putting the slugs in, you're pretty much ready to weld. One of the features that our kit offers that others do not are these gussets, these lower frame gussets that end up welding in right here. You can see that I've got the arch of that so it fits the bottom of your factory frame. It will set right in there like that. Weld right up next to the back of the hardtail kit and just make it super strong. From here, you can now remove your original swing arm from the bike. Now that that's removed, you can kind of get the full effect of how the tail is going to start looking.